I just want to bring this up quick. I want to learn Latin so I can read our fathers and doctors in the original language. Really, it's probably more so you can actually read them at all because a lot of them don't have even options in the English language. Can you give me the best sources and any tips you recommend me to do? I know about the resources for Greek. Kind of for Latin. I've been probably took my first Latin class like 2 years ago, so I've been working through Latin for the last 2 years. Um, what I obviously everybody this should be a no brainer, but for your textbook, obviously lingua latina, that shouldn't even be a question. Um, and definitely look up Scorpio. I don't even remember his name. Is Scorpio Mar? Crap, what is his name? Scorpio Martianus. Okay, there you go. Scorpio Martianus. He has some really good videos to check out. Um, Going through Lingua Latina, he reads it for you, and he has this really good video. It's called. Let me see. And this is kind of the plan I follow when I read through Lingua Latina. How to use extensive reading and audiobooks to become fluent. 7 steps. So this is really, really important. A lot of reading the same stuff is going to gain you some sort of familiarity with a certain language. So yeah, that's that. If you have no money, basically get Lingua Latina and kind of follow Scorpio Martianus's uh, method. But when it comes to like classes and stuff, Ancient Language Institute. That's actually where I take my Latin classes at. A lot of spoken Latin that we engage in, going and then we go through Lingua Latina. Very, very, very helpful um, because and they're really more focused towards classical sources than they are ecclesiastical sources, and that's why we use classical pronunciation. Um, but yeah, either way, it's gonna work about just the same. It's actually probably going to be like your. Um, I heard somebody describe going through Lingua Latina and then reading Thomas as like ha, as what how did he describe it? It's like setting a ninja on a 12-year-old. It's like that's the because really Thomas's Latin is just the Latin of the Scholastics is very simple, very easy, and a lot of the Renaissance guys like turn their noses up at them. But either way, it's gonna be extremely helpful, and if you just put work into it. But either way, the last thing to remember, I always remind people of this: no matter what, the best Latin program is going to be the Latin program that you actually do. Fighting about the best, whether Father Most's is better, whether Lingua Latina is better, whether it's better to do this or that or whatever, natural method, grammatical, but no matter what, you can have the crappiest Latin textbook in the world. If you actually care, you're gonna you're gonna be able to learn the language. Yeah, it's gonna take extra work, but you're gonna be able to learn the language. You just have to care. That's really the biggest element to success, really in anything, is to just care and to just kind of put your head down and pursue the goal and keep going until you actually reach it. But if you go to the link below, fluentgreeknt.com, if you do want to learn Greek, best Greek tool is Fluent Greek. They are a sponsor of the show, so I love them for that. But they do have a really interesting mix of, and I'm going to pull it up real quick. They do have a really interesting mix of grammatical and sort of natural method, where they, from the text of the New Testament, will kind of work you up by showing you verses that have the same grammatical verbal form, because there's these you'll learn about there's kind of like case system to Greek. So the verbs are different based on their endings, so they kind of group them together from easiest to hardest. and then continue to expose you to a lot of just reading. And you begin on the easy end, and you just keep going through. So by the end, you will have read every sentence of the New Testament, and you will have been exposed to them grouped from easiest to hardest, and then also grouped together based on the verb form, so you can work on that. And it also obviously build up your vocabulary as well. So definitely check that out. Make sure you use the code militant. I think it's 20% off, so it's like $12 a month. You get a 2-week free trial. I mean, why not? $12 a month is insanely cheap for any language learning source, because language learning is a business with a lot of money and very little success, unfortunately. So definitely check out Fluent Greek and use that code. So yeah, that's all. Any Latin or language learning recommendations in general, Hassan? Actually, Dende, I think you two are a language guy too.
No, what? What are you talking about,
Oh, you knew
bro?
Italian.
That's your definition of a language guy? I took like 3 years of that class and I forgot everything in like a year.
Come on, bro.
Okay, Hassan, I guess. Come on, Dende, you're disappointing.
So most of my learning is kind of just jumping in and practicing with texts. So like mostly with Latin, because it doesn't work that way for Arabic at all. I'm trying to study Arabic properly at the moment, and you just can't do that because of the way that it's written. But in Latin, the best thing that you can do is, once you have enough grasp but with a lot of effort, start reading a few pages of Latin, comparing it to an English translation that's like, that you can be sure of afterwards, and like basically use things like the Logion. I'll put the name of that in the chat. Using resources like that, or using like declension tables and stuff like that. That will help you to like practice, but you should use like a lot of like natural method stuff as well, like Most or Lingua Latina or Ecce Romani. You should do natural learning stuff to get you up to the point where you start practicing by reading texts. One of the things that will help you a lot is like when you meditate on the text of prayers, which I hope you're all doing. When you meditate on the text of prayers, doing them in Latin will reveal a new depth to the meaning of the prayer, because often the grammar of the prayer in Latin teaches you things about the prayer and its matter of contemplation that you wouldn't have noticed if you just did it in English, which is one of the reasons why it's good to pray in Latin, because it's a very precise language and it tells you a lot more about what it means.